Hey friends, are you unsure of what to say on social media or what to even send in your weekly emails? Well, what if creating content could be easy? Would you be looking for a shortcut to creating consistent content? Yes, consistent content, because you know consistency is key. Well, let me tell you, you are not alone when you feel like you're struggling on what to post or what to write in emails. And we know that you have that product part of your business down. But as you're listening to this podcast, you probably already know that to get more people to your products, to buy your products, you need to create great content. Oh, I know. I keep saying content, and that's the dreaded C word. And we can't tell you how many product bosses tell us that they want to create great content for their audience and their customers, but they don't know what to say, or they are so busy they can't find the time, or they really, really, really don't want to be the face of their brand. Well, no worries, because that's exactly why we created a year of content. It is your shortcut to creating consistent content that resonates with your audience and brings more loyal customers who can't wait to buy your products. If you want to see how easy this is and how easy it is to create content for your audience and your customers, head to www.ayearofcontent.com.
Welcome to the Product Boss Podcast, where we help product-based businesses grow their sales and improve their strategies.
Hey everyone, I want to introduce you to my co-host and biz bestie, Mina Kunlo-Sitep, an Amazon guru that has built a multi-six-figure product-based business.
And introducing the other half of the Product Boss, Jacqueline Snyder. She has helped launch and grow over 500 fashion apparel and accessory brands, even one of her own.
And together, we share our inventory of secret weapons that will help you dig deep and do the work it takes.
Are you ready? Let's build together.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Product Boss Podcast. I'm your host, Jacqueline Snyder, with my really helpful co-host, Mina Kunlo-Sitep. Hey, Mina.
Hey, Jacqueline.
Did you see what I did there?
Kind of?
Well, the episode is help. I feel like I'm drowning and I'm the bottleneck in my business. So you're really helpful. Get it?
Good one.
Hey, thanks. I worked hard on it. But seriously. So, there are so many times as business owners that we're going to feel like we're the bottleneck in our business. And it happens in a lot of different places and stages, right? Because we kind of get in our own way. Even if you're a startup business, you might be the bottleneck in a way of knowing you need to do something, but you just don't take action on it, but you need to get it done in order for something to happen, right?
I think it's different though. I feel like what we're talking about is so much more significant.
Right.
Because it's like a capacity thing.
That's what I was saying. Right? That's what we're going to get
instead
to.
Of like a focus thing, like usually you might be in startup and you're like, oh, what do? I don't want to do it. I don't have the motivation. I don't know if it's going to work out. Then it's more like, I don't know, mindset bottleneck.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of bottlenecks.
Yeah.
But the one that we're talking about today is what happens when you, like Mina said, you start to hit capacity. So capacity means maybe you're a maker and you're making your products and the demand is greater than your ability to keep up. It could also be, the shipping is greater than your ability to keep up. Or if, let's say you're a manufacturer, right? And you're getting things made by somewhere else. But again, like fulfilling all of the orders, you start to really become the bottleneck. You feel like I can't do my bookkeeping and get these orders out and do the marketing that I'm supposed to do and get the making or the packaging or the labeling done, right? Everything starts to feel super overwhelming. And you're like, oof, I'm the bottleneck, right? This is why things aren't going smoothly.
Yeah, you're hitting capacity. I think it's really significant during this time because you are a solopreneur. You usually start and you're doing all of the things. You're doing everything under the sun that you can do. You're making, you're shipping, you are marketing, you are, the one that does all the operations, making all the decisions. And then you start to realize that you need help. And we all need help at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's because, like Jacqueline said, sometimes it is, most times it is physical capacity. Like you just don't have the time in the day to do all the things. So you have to multiply what you're doing. And that one is easier to understand because it's more tangible. You can see the goods, you can see the demand, you can see the products that you need to ship out, that sort of thing. There's also mental and emotional capacity. I think at this time, you actually need help expanding out your even mental capacity. So at that time, it's like you're the solopreneur, you've done things a certain way, and now you need to think of other ways to do things. And you need other people to help you do it. And that at that point is when you're like, oh, I've really hit capacity at all spectrums of my business ownership. What do I do? So that's kind of, help. I'm drowning. We all feel that way in some way, shape, or form. And I'm the bottleneck of my business. What do I do?
Right. And so you've heard us talk about the Product Boss's $1 million track, which is the proven path to $1 million product based business and beyond. Right. And we've seen businesses that can get to $1 million in revenue in 3 years if that's what they want to do. Now, on this track, though, all of you are at different stages. So we have our development stage, right? Which is when you're kind of a startup, your total revenue is probably $0 a month or negative because you're building things out and you're in that ideation stage. After that, we have that startup stage. So that's when you're in test and try. Test and try is when you're testing things out. You're testing out the market, the customers, your marketing, your sales, and you're also figuring out what your best sellers are. And that's the startup stage, which is when you're in test and try. What we're going to get into in this episode is that growth stage. Now, what we're going to teach you in here, the tips are applicable across the board, right? Whether you are a $500,000 business, $1 million business, a startup, you're in test and try. But growth stage, this is where you're making, I would say $4,000 or $5,000 a month, up to $20,000 a month. And you need to start getting into refinement as your company is growing, right? Your company's starting to feel like it's taking off, it's got momentum, but help, what do I do? Because you're becoming the bottleneck.
Yeah, a lot of times they say it loosely, right? I'm in growth stage or whatever. And we've talked about the stage after this is called what we call the accelerate stage, where you focus on scaling. A lot of times business owners will straight up just skip over growth stage and move right into scaling, right? And so when you're in a growth stage, what we want you to do is refine. You need to kind of slow down a little bit to align with how you're going to scale. But instead, what happens is that you jump right into accelerate and the scaling part of it, because you're scaling because the demand is coming and the wheels start to fall off. And then next thing you know, you're thinking, well, I should have refined this thing a little bit.
You're thinking, I don't know that I can keep up and maybe I should just shut this down.
Yeah. You need to circle back to refinement, which is the growth stage. This is the $1 million track that Jacqueline and I had come up with. So these, identifiers are ones that we've figured out from working with thousands of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this one is definitely, people say loosely they're in growth stage, but they don't realize what they're supposed to do is refine.
Yeah. And part of the reason why is a lot of times we love the sales coming in, right? So we love the growth. We love the scaling because it's all of our hard work is starting to pay off.
And you're used to doing things a certain way too.
Yeah. But what happens when we're saying, is skipped that growth stage or that refinement stage is really a lot of it comes down to stabilization. So we teach this within our programs. We teach this in our mastermind, and we're teaching this in our new program that we'll talk about in a little bit. But it's that idea of you stabilize and then you scale. You stabilize and you scale. Imagine it like a stair stepper, right? You need to stabilize your business so that you can scale from there. And then when you've scaled and you start to hit capacity again, you have to stabilize again and then you scale. Because what will happen if your business continues to grow, but you don't have the infrastructure, right? Systems will start to fail. There will be products shipped out wrong. The boxes are wrong. You're going to get overwhelmed. We need to protect you as the business owner from that overwhelm so that you can enjoy the business you're building and that it can function like a well-oiled machine. And so that's really what we want you to do.
Yeah, for sure. Because in this case, right, usually this was something that I heard. We were at our mastermind, our peer mastermind that we paid for, which is Rachel Rogers' mastermind. And one of their KPIs, they have a whole different business model, so keep that in mind, was retention. But I want you to think about what retention means. It means loyalty, getting your customers to buy again, that sort of thing. But the thing with retention and loyalty and everything is that it's a lagging indicator. This is what they were saying, and it's so true. Like a lagging indicator means that you can look back on it and survey them 30, 60, 365, from the time that they onboard, and then you implement the changes. That's what's a lagging indicator and how to use it. Now, the the thing with refinement is that it is the reverse of that, in my opinion. You actually nip it in the butt or the bud, whatever,
We never
however
know
you
which one
say
it
it,
is.
um, before it even happens. You refine so you don't have to rely on that lagging indicator, the things breaking, like what Jacqueline said. So instead of waiting for things to break, you're literally aligning to make sure you're on the right track and refining the things that need to happen more in micro shifts than you are in the big scope of lagging indicator that big businesses have to do.
Yeah, because like Mina said, the growth stage is often skipped when you experience this massive growth, right? And as your business continues to level up and become more profitable, you must always circle back to this focus and this refinement. So here's some of the things in growth stage that business owners are starting to see or feel. The business is starting to turn a profit, but the business owner is paid very little, right? The business owner becomes the bottleneck and starts to hit capacity. This is when the business owner needs to start to outsource and hire and automate certain things. And the business owner often has a loose hold of their numbers, right? We may say, what's your best-selling month or what's your best-selling product? And you're starting to kind of figure things out, but you're not really using your numbers as data that can drive your business forward and also find a simpler way of driving it forward.
Yeah. So why is this the case? Why is it the case where they have a loose hold of their numbers? They are hitting capacity that they need to start hiring, outsourcing, and delegating. It's because a lot of times they have to up level their mindset too.
Mm-hmm.
So some limiting beliefs during this time is, I've always done it this way, or it needs to be with my two hands, or I'm just not good at business and I don't understand my numbers. So there's, you're scared of numbers or even looking at it to make sure the profit is there and how you can scale that particular, profit margin, especially with certain products. Like we said, you start to learn that 20% of your products make up 80% of your revenue. So at this point, this is, a lot of mental hurdles that you overcome in order to, like what Jacqueline said, hire, outsource, delegate, and remove yourself as the bottleneck of your business.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, and this is why we have come up with this new program that is going to be, how did you explain the program? What's the words that you used for it?
I think it's an accelerator, right? So I think that it's a structured, action-based curriculum, but it's meant for action takers in order to accelerate. So there is structure to it for sure. And it's a program where if you're going through it, it will get you through the growth stage of refinement and stabilizing and scaling. And you are the one that gets to be at the driver's seat. Like, that's the fun part,
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that when, if you listen to last week's episode, I'm guessing it's last week, I'm pretty sure it is, where we talked about the 4 phases that you go through, and we kind of get more micro within this growth stage. We went even further in, right? So we really, within the growth stage, we went through the 4 phases that we would go through in this new accelerator program. And we're so excited about it because we know that it will help you get into alignment of what you need to have with refining in order to go to the scaling stage, the accelerate stage, and that is what, like I said, the accelerate stage is 250 and above. But again, this all depends on
$250,000 in revenue a year.
Yeah. $250,000 revenue a year. But we even say that, that's a general number because of it being, it really depends on the cost of your goods, or not cost of your goods, the price of your product. So if you're selling $2 cookies, or
you might have a lower revenue, but you've sold thousands and thousands of units.
Cookies. That's right. It's a sliding scale, So,
like Mina, you with your labels, they're, $10-ish dollars each, but to get to millions of dollars, think about how many labels you had to sell versus someone selling more expensive pottery or jewelry or something like that.
Right. So I think that that's really what the benefit of the accelerator, this new accelerator program, is that we are really helping business owners take that initial leap from breaking past the barrier of 100,000. And if you're already at 100,000, breaking past the barrier of 250,
Getting
and
you to
again,
250,000.
yeah, 250,000. So I use those numbers a little bit loosely depending on how much your products are.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? And so again, talking about this, the program, right? The accelerator is that it is going to be like a mix of group coaching and curriculum. And it's just going to be an incredible way to work with us and our team over 5 months. And in this, while we're talking about refinement, I feel like refinement isn't always as sexy, right? People are like, okay, but at least for me, I guess my brain is like, well, how do I make more sales? Like refining feels like slowing down.
Well, what if I rephrased it to you? Rephrase, is that the right word? Yeah, rephrased it to you in a way. I think that at this stage, especially if you want to get to 100,000 or to 250, you need to not just refine, but you need to find a repeatable year.
Right.
So it feels a little bit sexier when I say, could you imagine what you could do with a repeatable year, a refined, repeatable year? And so that's kind of where the 4 phases came from, was taking what works, honing in on it, and
almost like doubling down.
Yeah, doubling down. That's right. And doubling down, parlaying it, all the gambling terms that we can say.
Let's move to that.
Educated way.
So not so much like slot machine where you're just putting in a coin, you're pulling the lever, and you're like, okay, well, at some point this is going to pay out, right? Which might be the way. Okay, let's go with gambling here. This might be the way we got to where we are, right? We're like, we're like
testing
crossing
and
our fingers.
That's a slot machine of testing and trying.
That's like playing 3 slots at the same time, right? Where it's like, okay, one of these is going to pay out. So that's sort of probably a lot of the ways that we came. Do you all like how our brains work? This is like, we're like, let's use this analogy. So it's like the slot machine. We're just testing, we're putting money in. We're like, oh, if I pull the lever and push the button this time, then maybe that'll work. Or like this is how I play slots. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to push the button to spin. I'm just going to push the button to spin. And then like the 4th one, I'll like pull the lever. We're just hoping something pays out. And we're doing it with our own sort of calculations.
I'm going to do this one with my left hand.
I'm going to order 2 drinks because that's my good luck drink. I don't know. So that's a lot of business in the beginning. And then at this stage is like when you're going to go to the blackjack table.
I actually never play blackjack. Do you play blackjack when you go?
If I were to play, I'd play blackjack or roulette. Roulette, I always feel like doesn't make any sense because it's guessing and hoping. And then
all the roulette players right now are probably cringing. This is an on-the-fly analogy like every other podcast episode we've done. I haven't been
to Vegas in so long.
Okay, I like it. So, when you come to a table, you kind of assess, is this a good table? Is it not? I'm going to try 3 hands, and then you get dealt your hands. So it's like if it's 2 aces, you split it. If it's, I don't know, under 16, you don't hit. Who knows? There's general rules, right?
We should just go back to slot machines. It's so simple.
So simple. There's general rules of, okay, here's,
it's like the expected rules, right? Because they're going to look at someone, for example, the splitting of the 2 cards, like you get dealt 2 cards and you can split them and play both those hands, I believe, is that someone new to the table or they're just playing, they're 18 and they've just gone to Vegas for their first time. They might be playing in more seasoned players will look over and be like, not the right move.
Terrible.
This is what you're supposed to do.
It's more baseline stuff. So like if you're starting out in business, you know that you need to test and try a lot of things. So you might be testing things on social media. That's, a general rule of business. Social media, you get onto social media. General rule of business is you have photos of your products, right? Or general rule of business is that you have somewhere where you can exchange money or, I know. I got one. You name your business. That's a general rule,
Or, and photos is a general rule. You do take pictures of your products, especially if you're selling online.
Yeah.
But then let's talk about pricing, for example. And a lot of our multi-stream machine students realize when they jump into that course that they're not pricing correctly. So that's something where like you sit down at the table and you see someone else and they're like, no, you split the 2 cards. And that's sort of with product bosses, we're like, oh, this is how you price, right? So that you don't feel like you're losing money every time you make something and ship it.
That's right.
Now at this level, at the growth level, there's more strategy to it, right? So when you're sitting down at a table, are we getting there? Is the analogy starting to flow?
This is it. I'm liking it.
Cross our fingers together.
We don't know where this train is going.
No idea. Thanks for listening. No. So when you've been playing for a while, which our growth stage people have been playing for a while, they started off not knowing the general rules, right? They figured out the general rules. Maybe people gave them tips. Maybe some like helpful players like, oh, do this, right? They've practiced. And now you're able to sit at a table with confidence and you're sitting there and you're like, yeah, I've got confidence. I've got confidence sitting here. I know how to play my cards. I've got strategic moves, right? You know when to put more money.
Imagine this. Imagine this. If you were a blackjack player doing pretty darn good, you've made, a bank of $100,000 or let's say,
good
a
player.
bank of $100,000. Yeah, good player, right?
Yeah.
Somehow you've gotten there all by yourself by applying the general rules of test and try. And then Jacqueline sits down. Now, this is a professional.
Oh, yeah. You might have seen me on TV as a professional blackjack player.
And imagine she's there to help you.
High roller.
With a book that she put together, a curriculum of these are the strategies that I know will help you by refining what you're currently doing. Imagine that.
Imagine I say to you, listen, I'm going to tell you a few tips and we're going to get you from $100,000 to $250,000. What would you say?
Good now. I would say for sure, sign me up, right? And then what if, there was other players
Mina sits down on the other side.
I sit down on the other side and I'm your hype girl, right? I'm saying you can do this. We know that it's hard putting down the test and try money, but here's what you do. Listen to Jacqueline and I encourage you and I lift those mindset things for you, right? I'm like, okay, let's get you to the wealth version of this pot of money that you've done. Let's get you to the, now you're paying Jacqueline to sit next to you or me or whatever. Let's get to the profit or the product. You have to give the house a vig. Is that what it's called? You have to tip the waitresses. You hire a masseuse to massage your body at the same time, So there's all these expenses.
What casinos have you gone to?
Yeah, that's what they do at the poker tables.
They give you massages?
Yeah, you can pay for a masseuse to come.
Okay, see, this is a great analogy for us. We're learning as we go.
Yeah. So there's all these expenses of you sitting down at the table, being an entrepreneur, but you can up-level the strategy that you're doing. And you can also have other people that are more experienced because there's the skill set, there's the experience, there's the gut intuition, the having worked with other players in the field, that sort of thing. And then you start to make the real money. So that's kind of where we're bringing it full circle here. That is how you have better educated guesses and minimize risk when you have somebody who understands that you need to refine what you're doing with really good strategy and also encourage you along the way because you are human. A human player has human elements. And then also that you are able to repeat what you're doing that works, even with certain things. The world is what it is. There's the game of chance thrown in there. But what if you positioned yourself in a better way that could make you more profitable?
Yes. So good. Hey friends, are you unsure of what to say on social media or what to even send in your weekly emails? Well, what if creating content could be easy? Would you be looking for a shortcut to creating consistent content? Yes, consistent content, because consistency is key. Well, let me tell you, you are not alone when you feel like you're struggling on what to post or what to write in emails. And we know that you have that product part of your business down. But as you're listening to this podcast, you probably already know that to get more people to your products, to buy your products, you need to create great content. Oh, I know. I keep saying content, and that's the dreaded C word. And we can't tell you how many product bosses tell us that they want to create great content for their audience and their customers, but they don't know what to say, or they are so busy they can't find the time, or they really, really, really don't want to be the face of their brand. Well, no worries, because that's exactly why we created a year of content. It is your shortcut to creating consistent content that resonates with your audience and brings more loyal customers who can't wait to buy your products. If you want to see how easy this is and how easy it is to create content for your audience and your customers, head to www.ayearofcontent.com. I think I see it, right? I see you sitting there, my friends, and Mina and I on either side, like hyping and encouraging and giving strategy and all the things. So going back to this episode, right? The whole thing here is, what happens when you become the bottleneck. So while in the program, we're going to talk about a lot of different elements in there, and this is higher level, right? This is not crossover with multi-stream machine. This is taking another approach to really digging into your business. And it's an accelerator. It's a growth accelerator. We still want to accelerate you forward where you will have more traffic and more sales, but it'll feel easier, right? Like you won't feel like you're doing it on your own. So, Mina, some of the ways that they can get when you're in this phase as a bottleneck, the biggest issue is it's kind of like chicken or the egg. They're not willing to hire because it feels scary to get help, because maybe you're not making the revenue yet that you want to be making, that you feel you can afford to hire someone. Maybe you're not paying yourself yet, that you know that you can afford to hire people. Maybe you have hired one person, right? But one of the things is you cannot grow. You cannot get to that next level without something breaking, without starting to take things off of your plate as the business owner and having help in other ways, whether it's hiring part-time help, outsourcing. So we're going to talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, I think that, I mentioned that we went to Rachel Rogers' mastermind. We're in it, in her mastermind. And one of the aha moments that I had was this reinforcement of that if you do not hire, you are stunting your own growth. If you do not hire, you're stunting your growth. Now, does that mean that you won't grow? No, it just means you're stunting your growth, right? So with hiring, one of the things that I really took away from there is that when you start to hire, it shows the maturity of the business and the business owner. So you may not be really good at hiring first. None of us are, but you get better at it, and you start to hire more. So this is the beginning part of that stunted growth, the beginning part of you're the bottleneck of your business and you don't want to hire because you want to keep the money. And totally understandable, However, you need to buy back your time. So this is the start of that. And this is the start of you being a really mature business owner. A really mature business owner reinvests their money into the people. And they are like, okay, how can I not only hire, but how can I automate and delegate? Okay, delete. No, what am I going for here?
Delete. Delegate.
Delete, outsource, or automate. Yeah. So those things are kind of what should go through your head. So you can automate as much as you can, or you can outsource to a third-party person. Let's say you have somebody who fulfills for you, or you can hire somebody in-house that is on your team that is seasonal or part-time, like Jacqueline said, or contract, whatever it looks like. For, let's say, the hires that we typically see first are production or fulfillment. So production, because you're doubling yourself what you need to make. That's where a lot of bottlenecks happen, is you needing to make the things. Or it's fulfillment because you need to ship to the people.
Yeah. And so that's the thing, right? Because I think and here's getting out of your own way, when you are the bottleneck, you are stunting your own growth, right? And it feels harder. It feels so much harder because you can't even see through it or past it. You're just like, I'm drowning in this. I don't know what to do. I feel stuck, right? And that feeling of stuckness is the thing that's going to not create ease in your life. It's not going to create flow or growth. It's going to feel very hard. And so we want you to get out of your own way. So just to repeat it again, right? You want to do, what are you going to do, right? That's at this point in your business. I don't even want to say that only you can do, because so many of you out there have this mindset that only you can do something. It is 100% not true.
Okay? Oh, such a lie.
Yeah.
It's a lie in your brain.
Yeah. Because there are people everywhere doing Coco Chanel is no longer alive, and Chanel continues to be one of the biggest fashion brands in the world. I know I was going to
Even
Chanel.
with Coco Chanel, that's too hard to imagine. I think it's so
I'm just
far away
saying,
because
like,
she's
when you think of,
manufactured.
but I'm just saying, no, but I'm saying the designs, because a lot of times
Mhm.
creatives believe that no one can replace their creativity.
Yeah.
And it's
I
not
think it's
true.
easier to think of like if you're a potter, you can hire more potters. If you're an artist, you can hire more artists. If you are, and it doesn't have to be an artist per se, it could be the first part of the artistry, like the base level artistry, or it could be the finisher, you know. Um, if you are a candle maker, you hire a labeler, So there's definitely pieces of that can alleviate some of that bottleneck pressure that you have at the beginning when you start to do your first hires. Like, what is the piece of the process that is repeatable, that you can streamline, that you think, okay, if I could even alleviate that little bit of pressure, that imagine what I could do with that 10 hours a week that I was dedicating to this, that I just bought back, my time.
Right. And I say this because as a fashion designer, and starting my own fashion brand, it was sort of like I did it all, right? So I designed it, I came up with the measurements, I picked the fabrics, I then took it to the contractor that made it, I did the finishing, I shipped it, I did all the things. So I'm coming at it from a creative because a lot of times I think creatives believe that they can't be replaced as a creative. But and when I brought up Coco Chanel, it's because as a fashion designer, I went and designed for big businesses within their realm. As a graphic designer, you're able to design within
Yeah.
people's realms. So the idea is like, even those of you that are getting in your own way from the way of creative and that you feel like that's only you, long term, as you grow your business, it may not be you, right?
But I disagree though. I think it is them. They don't replace themselves. It's they replace their hands. But you as a graphic design, you as a designer, for example, and Coco Chanel, the ideas were birthed in their brains, the designs, So for you, the design will always be yours,
Yeah,
So
no, though, because as a fashion designer, you go and you work underneath brands. So the brand is established.
yeah,
But the thing is that the creative, there's always someone above it, but it doesn't even mean that the person who used to do it is approving every single thing, because there's tiers. I guess I just want to say that in the way of like creatives we want you to do what you want to do. You may not be there yet to take a bunch of things off your plate, but what can you do and what can someone else do? Because the delegation part.
But as creatives, right? Because they're creatives, they came up with this idea, but they will eventually be the finishing touch. They are the ones that created and produced it. So when you're the boss of your business, a lot of times, let's say you are a designer, you stay part of the design, the research and development. But the thing is, you are the person that has the vision. That's the thing. So you don't actually replace you as the visionary.
No.
Because the design, even if somebody else comes up with a design, it has to fit into the vision.
Correct.
So even the prototype or the candle scent or the potted bowl or whatever, even if it's somebody else's hands, you're going to replace the hands, but the vision is always yours. So I think that as you're creative, you have to understand that you are literally outsourcing production and fruition of that vision. But that vision is something that you initially came up with and are carrying through, So even Coco Chanel, that was her vision, that's why it's her namesake,
Right. And it's that eventually gets established as the brand. I'm just saying that people don't have to, there are ways that we can take it all the way and say, I have to do it all, and you don't. Mm-hmm. But then the other side is the delegation. So at this stage, it starts to be, how can you delegate something out? So we had this conversation with one of our masterminders, actually, that it is a candle company. So we are going to bring up a candle company.
I was trying not to say it this time. And I kept bringing it up because it's just like,
And they hired for someone to put labels on.
Yeah.
Out of 120 candles, 80 of these candles were labeled crooked, right? Mm-hmm. And she was like, no, like this is not going to work. So she delegated, which is a big deal. Now, I want to tell you that this person didn't work out for the point
in that position.
in that position, for the point of telling you that when you delegate, it may not be perfect. And that is
Yeah.
okay. Because as business owners, we've made, how many mistakes do we make? I mean, coming up with an analogy on the
80 is
fly
a
is
lot. So, obviously she had a percent of the number that was like too many. And then that person was not made to be labeling. Let's just say that.
But I want to let everyone know that people will mess up. There might be an 80 out of 120 products you cannot use. Now, we coach through, and this is even in the program, we're going to, in the accelerator program, we're going to talk about, how to do delegate and delete, right? How to have these, how to hire, who do you need to hire? Potentially the conversations can happen about skill assessment of the people you're hiring and how can you do interviews and things like that. So that's a big deal, right? So she hired somebody and didn't know what to have this person go through. And now with the support is able to think, okay, I need to look for this kind of thing. I need to have a job description that looks like this. I need to test this person before I hire them on. And then, someone else is like, here's a label, put her on her. That's a thing to use as well.
Or they invested in a machine that could do it, right?
That was the label, put her on her.
Yeah.
That was the machine.
So, yeah. Oh, I thought you were talking about in person.
No.
Because that's a different way that somebody does it, right? They automate it.
Which is automating, yeah.
Yeah. So it might be a machine. It might be software. It might be, in, I don't know, some sort of automation. It might be a subscription-based thing that you get toilet paper to your office instead of, ordering from Amazon every time, that sort of thing. That's an automation that happens within your process.
Yeah. But I think a lot of times we get in our own way too, because we're afraid, going back to only someone can do it. Only the way I do it is right. When you do delegate, allow for there to be mistakes and learning mistakes. And we try and minimize that. And as we train and we onboard people, things will get easier. Right? You hire, and if they don't work out, you don't have them anymore, but you need to delegate, and you need to be okay with the risk that comes with delegating, because things happen and you'll learn from it.
And if it ends up being 80 out of 120, that is a lot. So it's not like you delegate and you're okay with 80. It's that maybe there could have been a better training then, right?
Onboarding system.
Right. Maybe there could have been a better training. Maybe that person is not made for that skill set. It's not in their wheelhouse. Maybe you need a machine instead. Maybe, that person needs to restructure their workstation. Instead of pulling from the left, they pull from the right. I don't know. There's lots of different things that, account for.
A suggestion inside was, one of the other masterminders was like, in the job description, put, if crooked paintings on a wall bother you, apply for this position, right? Because if it doesn't bother you, then you sticking 80 labels on wrong.
Right?
So with that, then it's that idea too for all of you. And then, so that's the do, there's the delegate, there's the delete. So delete's a big thing too, is the bottleneck. So we have another student that we worked with that she has blankets manufactured, and they come wrapped beautifully from overseas, right? Being manufactured. So they come and they're beautiful. And that work has been done for her, right? The work has been done for her to be able to get these products sent over from overseas. But here's where she needs to delete. She realized that one, she was fulfilling a lot and was needing to go and ship and that took a lot of time, but she was packaging them extra. She was wrapping them extra with paper tissue. She was putting twine around it. She was putting another label on. And we were like, they already look lovely the way they're coming from overseas. And so the idea there was...
And for this particular thing, it's not like it even mattered to her customer, really. It wasn't a giftable.
So we're like, can you delete that part of your business, right? Can you delete it? And then when you delete that work, it'll open up time and space. So, she had to take some time to think about it because she had been doing something a certain way for so long, but realized that she was bottlenecking herself and not able to focus on other things like marketing and sales and all the other drivers because she was a bottleneck. So that was something that she deleted.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a really big conversation, right? I think that the whole takeaway from here is that when you are drowning and you're the bottleneck of your business, what do? Well, you have to start taking steps to remove yourself as the bottleneck. I know that sounds obvious, but it happens with delegating through other people, or outsourcing through other people, or eliminating some tasks, like Jacqueline said, deleting,
And
and
automating.
automating. That's right. I was like, oh, there's one more somewhere.
Because like automating could be emails, right? Do you have a certain system built into your emails that you don't have to worry about sending an email all the time from a welcome sequence, but there's something that's really built in? So what can we automate in your business as well?
Yeah. And this is all just a bit of the surface level of what we're going to be teaching all of you that sign up in the accelerator, right? We're teaching you refinement and repeatability, essentially a repeatable year. So how can you apply this portion of it? Because this is you as a bottleneck, but then what the other things we go over though is like, how do you increase your sales? How do you, like Jacqueline said, stabilize and then scale, stabilize and then scale? Because that really is how we put our money where our mouth is. And we set these, improvements to make you more money. And then,
because I like that. I want to make you all so much money by helping you out, by sitting on the side of you at the table, at the blackjack table, right? And we're like, use our tips, and we're encouraging you to blow your own minds, you know, and make the money you want to make.
Get this masseuse while you're at it.
And get them, we may not be including a masseuse in the program, but we'll be massaging your mindset. Is that good?
Oh my God, I love it.
And on that note, my friends, if you want to get on the wait list, head to theproductboss.com/fast track. We are going to put that in the show notes. There are super limited spots for this first round of this program. And so we will be there is a limit to the people that we'll be taking. So when you hear this, sign up, go get onto the wait list, because the wait list and our multi-stream machine students are going to have early access to sign up and take those spots. And if you all fill it up, our waitlist friends and our multi-stream machine students, then it may not even be released to the general public and our email
list. Then everybody
list.
just has to wade through this episode and get the most that they can. Good luck.
Good luck to you all. We probably won't use the gambling analogy, or maybe we will in the course. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't think so. We're not.
You're like, no, we don't know enough about this. All right. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week. Thank you for being here and listening all the way through the Product Boss podcast. If you love our show and it has helped you in any way in your business, would you mind doing 2 things for us? Subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode, and leave us a review. Reviews help other product entrepreneurs know that this is the place to be to grow their businesses and realize that they're not alone. And we know that you all know that a 5-star and honest review helps you sell more products to more people. So you know that your reviews help us reach more listeners around the world. Remember, what we give is what we receive, and we are all about helping each other in the Product Boss community. We are all in this together. We would be so appreciative of you if you could take the time right now to subscribe, leave a review, and even share this episode on social or someone you know, so we can impact more lives. And remember, subscribing means that you will get notified each time we release a new episode, so you never miss a thing. You have helped us grow and climb into the top 10 of all marketing podcasts, and together we can keep climbing. Thank you, friends. And remember, there is room at the top for all of us. This episode is brought to you by the Shop 1 in 5 Pledge and Small Business Shopping Directory. It's a commitment to make 1 in 5 of your purchases from a small business online or offline. So head to shop1in5.com to take the pledge. And friend, while you are there, check out and shop from hundreds of small businesses in the Small Business Shopping Directory. It's the go-to directory to discover, support, and shop small businesses all in one place. Head to shop1in5.com.